Well, it looks like we've got a bit more Battletech news since the last time I did one of these. This time, with an important focus on the narrative front. Mostly, as there is also some major gameplay news as well that I have not really covered over the last few weeks, but it does have another big update today. So, let's start with the stuff on the narrative front. More specifically, it looks like the narrative stuff is beginning to finally move. At least a little. This news comes via several sources of mine, i.e. congoers, who attended FanX Salt Lake. There was a panel there with Michael Stackpole and Brian Young, where they went over current and future projects that they've been working on. 2 books will be dropping from Brian Young this year. The first appears to be Outfoxed, which is a Fox Tales novel. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe it is the first full Fox Tales novel on its own. Not an anthology or anything of the sort. This is arriving on October 24th. I've not heavily followed them yet, but they are a fairly popular unit, particularly among new fans. I'm planning on doing a Fox Tales video next year even, so this will just be adding another book to the big pile I'll need to read for that to come to life. Next up, and I think this one is the major news of concrete narrative stuff coming out, if I'm honest, is that there are 4 Rasalhague Dominion novellas meant to be covering the events around Dominions Divided that are on their way out. These books are, in all honesty, really important. People know I covered Dominions Divided very critically. And well, I still do. It was honestly just kind of a huge letdown of a sourcebook in terms of the, unironically, Dominion. But I'm not going to relitigate how that book went off the rails, at least in my view. Instead, I'm pointing out that these books give the opportunity to explore the conflict, and hopefully try to shake off some of the inherent problems with how it was depicted in Dominions Divided. However, if these books are more of the same, oh man. I'm still looking forward to them though, as I really am hopeful that they won't be. Brian has come through with most of the fiction I've read from him, and I'll be interested in how this gets framed. However, the first of these 4 books will be landing in Q4, which means between October and December, and I am extremely excited to see it. Chronologically, these 4 novellas will go from before the Ghost Bear Civil War, to parts of the Civil War itself, to even the aftermath, where fighting will be happening with the Draconis Combine. Let's just see how it goes. There's also even more big news, in that Michael Stackpole himself, despite apparent protests from his co-host, mentioned that they're going to be driving the fiction forward with 5 books. What these are, and what they're going to be like, who knows? But fiction is beginning to grind ahead, and that's the really important part of all of this. The timeline is finally looking to be pushed forwards. Let's just hope that things start moving sooner than later. Still, fascinating stuff. Oh, and the comic books are still being worked on. The first issue apparently has a script. We will see when this finishes getting moving. So, what else is news then? Oh, there is also a huge beta test going on right now for a mild rules refresh to the game. For those of you who don't know, yes, Battletech does get rules revisions, but they are typically very slow and methodical at doing this. Some players might tell you that there has never been a change to the rules, or that things don't get errated, and that is just completely untrue. These rules beta tests are being updated and rolled out over time. I will have a link in the top pinned comment for all of you to check it out, because as of right now, 2 subsets of rules are being looked at, and both of them are still actively being playtested, and you can participate in that playtesting. So far, as many people have reported on, they have the survivability updates. And remember, this is beta testing. These changes will not happen if they get feedback showing that they broadly don't work or that people don't enjoy them. You should actually playtest the game though to give valuable feedback. The biggest of those apparently proposed in any round of rules changes is the right and left flank hit location tables are being removed, and instead, the central table is used to resolve all incoming fire. Only, if you strike from the left side, you cannot hit the right side, and if you strike from the right side, you cannot hit the left, defaulting those impossible hits to the opposite side. In other words, if you're on the left side and you roll to hit the right arm, you actually hit the left arm instead. This is meant to make the game more tactical, encouraging people to actively try to flank, while also streamlining the game in such a way as to try to remove a clunkier side torso system that really doesn't make an abundance of sense. This is actually something I'd hoped would be looked at for a while, for years even, since I've always considered the current side arc firing rules kind of bloated, but also bad at representing striking someone from their side. It also felt like it didn't even reward players for doing either, unless you were just getting in there and dropping kicks on one leg consistently. Still, it's in beta, and we'll find out if this is something where the feedback points to this being a permanent change. Along with this, ammunition explosions are being toned down, something that on its own I would actually not want to see. But when factoring in the side torsos becoming potentially more vulnerable, I think this is a necessary change to be paired with that. Basically, ammunition explosions are capped at 20 damage. Case then drops that cap to 10, and Case 2 drops it to 1. Also, pilots will still take damage from explosions and etc. I'd actually be opposed to this without the new flanking system, but still, let's see where it all goes. Playtesting continues up until October 13th, and once more, I will have that link in the top pinned comment. There is also, as of right now, September 30th, a rules package for people to focus on mobility. Let's do a rundown of what these proposed beta changes are. Water has been altered to be more playable. Walking into Depth 1 water will not have a PSR, and just -1 movement point per hex. And Depth 2 is just -2 movement points per hex. If you are running or jumping into said water beyond level 0, you must make a straight PSR roll, unless you are being hindered by other factors. Next up, you can now walk backwards uphill, or downhill. There's also going to be a change to the initiative system, a little bit. For the purposes of initiative, immobile mechs don't count towards the total units on their side in the movement phase. This doesn't impact mechs or vehicles for the purposes of firing though, only for the purposes of movement. The first really big change in my view is that gyro hits are now a 2+ to PSRs instead of a 3+ to PSRs, making getting struck with a gyro hit slightly less of a death sentence for the mech that receives it. It's still bad, it's just slightly less bad than it was before. Another change? Blasting off a foot no longer results in a PSR. Losing a foot just means losing a fraction of the movement profile of the mech while running and walking, though PSRs will still need to be taken if the mech jumps, and all future kicks are +1 to hit. Speaking of leg damage, hip actuator hits have been changed too. It is now a +1 PSR modifier to lose a hip, and it restricts the mobility of the mech going forward, much the same as you would have expected before. This lowered PSR, by the way, is pretty different than what it was before. Just as before, the mech will also need to make a PSR whenever it runs or jumps. If the hip is indeed hit, all other leg damage related to movement points, to be specific, are ignored in that leg. Essentially, just the hip modifier is applied. Though importantly, piloting skill roll related issues from these hits do still stack. When a PSR is called for due to damage suffered to a mech's leg, only 1 PSR is made regardless of how many actuators have been destroyed. This applies whether a PSR is called for due to newly suffered damage, such as part of a limb being destroyed during the current turn, or due to pre-existing damage that affects the current action, such as running with a previously destroyed hip actuator. Note though, this only affects things as a single PSR applied per leg, so if both of your hips are blown out, you're going to have to make 2 PSRs. Other effects like terrain, gyro damage, etc. still stack with their own modifiers and also still get their own tests. Losing a leg still sucks. A lot. Though maybe slightly less than it did before. Walking movement, and all calculations as to what its running movement will be, are halved to a minimum movement point loss of 2. It's then a 4+ piloting skill roll. The mech also immediately falls over the turn it loses its leg, and it must make a PSR anytime it runs or jumps. Unsurprisingly, it cannot kick ever again either. Both legs get knocked out, the mech is then confirmed immobile, but will still be able to prop itself to fire in the firing phase. And the final change to the movement beta? Piloting skill rolls to stand up are slightly easier. They used to be +0, meaning a straight PSR roll, and now they are -1. If you flub, you still fall over again and again, and take more sweet fall damage. However, the PSR bonus also is applied to the pilot trying to get up. If they fall again, they have a better chance of not being hurt by 1. That's it! That's all, everyone! Except one more thing. The last bit of news is related to Aces, the Scouring Sands. Six Sides of Gaming and Linvander Studios showed off an unboxing stream going over all the components within the new box and how some of the systems on board work. The box itself is a very exciting release for cooperative and single-player gameplay. And while I'm not going to be going too deep into detail here, at least not until November when I plan on doing an Aces video, it is something I think you should check out. Again, the link will be in the top pinned comment for that. Outside of that, channel-related news, the mystery video for the channel is almost done, literally only 1 or 2 images away from completion. It's going to be spectacular. I can't wait for all of you to see it in about a week, or maybe even less. But that's it for your Battletech news. Like and subscribe if you found this helpful, and if you want to follow the mech and lore videos on the channel, as well as other news as it comes up. Thank you to all of the YouTube channel members as per usual. I could not do this without you, I really mean it. As I always say, this is only made possible because of viewers like you. And finally, what do you think of all of this? What do you think of fiction driving the way? Are you interested in the new books mentioned? Are you excited for more beta testing? Have you tried the survivability rule set yet? As I know they've been out for a few weeks now. Let me know in the comments section below, and I'll catch you all there.